Good morning. This is Teresa Nikas, and this is today's Quiet Echo. Last week, I wrote a sentence in this paper mildly critical of a decision the county made. Nothing fiery, you understand, just a few lines suggesting the road money might have been better spent somewhere else. I ran it. The paper went out into the world, and the very worst thing to happen to me all week long was a slightly frosty voicemail from a man who disagreed. And then I did not think about it again. And there, right there, is the whole entire point of what I want to say this morning. I did not have to think about it again. Now, there was a time when writing a sentence like mine could cost a person just about everything they had. A woman named Anna Zenger lived in exactly those years. In the autumn of 1734, in the city of New York, the royal governor had a newspaper publisher arrested. His name was John Peter Zenger, and his small weekly paper had spent the better part of a year needling the governor for his greed and for the abuse of his office. The charge against him was seditious libel, which in those days did not care one bit whether the words a man published were actually true. In fact, the court held the truth of it made the offense worse and not better, on the theory a true insult stung a powerful man far more sharply than a false one ever could. And so Zenger was thrown into a jail cell where he sat for the better part of a year while they built their case against him. And here, now, is the part of the story history mostly goes and forgets. The paper did not die with his arrest. It missed one single issue, the very next one, which, honestly, is easy enough to understand. It takes about a week to get yourself organized when the man who runs the whole operation is suddenly sitting in a cell. But then it did not miss another. Week after week after week, the paper came out, right on time, needling the governor just as before, put out now by Zenger's own wife, Anna. She published the very paper her husband had been jailed for publishing, and she kept it coming without fail right up until the day he was set free. She is remembered today, when she is remembered at all, as the first woman to publish a newspaper in America. Mostly, I am sorry to say, she is not remembered, and when the trial finally came, in the August of 1735, Zenger's lawyer stood up in the courtroom and argued something nobody of the day was even supposed to say out loud. He told the jury plainly the words were true, and he asked those 12 men to decide for themselves whether a true thing could really be a crime. The judge instructed them it could, and 12 ordinary New Yorkers walked out, came back in just a few minutes, and said, "Not guilty." The whole room erupted, and a plain and radical idea took root in American soil. The truth is a defense. You cannot be punished for publishing what is simply so. Now, let me confess something to you. Last week, with my little sentence about the road money, I caught myself hovering for just a moment before I sent it out, wondering if I ought to soften it a touch to be polite. And when I read about Anna Zenger, I felt almost ashamed of the hesitation. Because my great risk, the thing making me pause, was a frosty voicemail and maybe a canceled subscription. Hers was a husband in a cell, a family in the balance, and a governor who had already burned her paper in the public square. And she did not hover. She did not soften a single line to be polite. She simply put the paper out, and then she did it again the next week, and the week after, for the better part of a year. I have never in my life been asked to be a fraction as brave as she was, and I hope I never am. But if I ever were, I would like to think I would remember her. I think about her now when I put this paper to bed at night, because the freedom I use so very casually to write a mild complaint and never once fear a knock upon my door was not handed down to me by the powerful. The powerful, remember, were the ones doing the jailing. No, it came up from below. From a publisher stubborn enough to keep needling from inside a cell. From a wife stubborn enough to keep the paper coming without him. From 12 plain neighbors stubborn enough to look a hand-picked judge square in the eye and refuse him. Ordinary people, every last one of them, doing the deeply unglamorous work of simply not backing down. There is a phrase this paper of ours tries hard to live by. The real power is never in persuasion, but in truth. And I did not truly understand, until I read about Anna Zenger, how literally it was once meant. The truth was the defense. It was the solid thing you stood upon when the governor himself came for you. So the next time this paper runs something you happen to disagree with, you go right ahead and pick up the phone and tell me so. I am so glad you can, and I am gladder still neither of us has to be one bit brave to do it, because somebody was already brave enough a long time ago, and she asked for no credit at all, and she got very little. Her name was Anna Zenger. My part in this paper is only ever the words, and this morning they cost me nothing. Hers was to publish them, when doing so could have cost her everything. And after the one hard week, she did not stop, not once, until her husband walked free. The front porch is open. Whose quiet courage do you owe a freedom you use without thinking? Come and tell us, and if we get something wrong, tell us, and we will run the correction. The readers of the Cedar Valley News are gathering to share their stories and keep company with respect and no party lines. Come sit with us. I will put the link in the show notes. This is Teresa Nikas, your host for today's Quiet Echo. Thanks for listening. Quiet Echo is part of the fictional Cedar Valley News series, written by Evan Swenson, publisher, and Claude Marshall, AI developmental editor. While the town of Cedar Valley is fictional, the Zengers were real. In 1734, the royal governor of New York had the newspaper publisher John Peter Zenger jailed for seditious libel over his New York weekly journal, which had criticized the governor. Under the law of the day, the truth of a statement was no defense. During the roughly 9 to 10 months of his imprisonment, his wife, Anna Katharina Zenger, kept the paper in publication, missing only the first issue after his arrest and then continuing it every week until his release, and she is often called the first woman to publish a newspaper in America, though its content was largely guided by his allies. On August 4, 1735, a jury acquitted Zenger, accepting attorney Andrew Hamilton's argument for truth as a defense. The case is regarded as a milestone toward American freedom of the press. Sources include the Historical Society of the New York Courts and Britannica.
You've been listening to the Cedar Valley News Podcast, where small-town voices meet the headlines shaping our world. From faith and family to front porches and fields. We'll be back with more stories connecting real lives to real events. Until next time, keep your porch light on, your faith strong, and your heart open. This is Cedar Valley News.